My name's Ben. This happened the summer before my senior year. It was one of those long, sticky Julys where it felt like the sun never really set, just dimmed a bit. I was with two friends, Kyle and Marcos, and we thought it'd be fun to spend a weekend camping out by this little lake about an hour from town. Not one of those maintained campgrounds with bathrooms and rangers, just an old forgotten fishing spot we heard about from a kid Kyle knew at work. We brought tents, bug spray, beer we weren't legally allowed to have, and a cheap Bluetooth speaker that somehow always lasted forever on one charge. It wasn't a special trip, just dumb summer stuff. No one had girlfriends at the time, and we were bored. I remember Kyle saying he wanted one last real summer weekend before we all scattered for college or jobs or whatever. The spot was hard to find. We had to hike about 20 minutes off a gravel road and through a stretch of overgrown woods. There wasn't even a sign. The trees were so dense the light barely made it through, and the path felt like something deer made more than people. But when we got there, man, it was perfect. The water was glass still. No one around for miles. Just the buzzing of cicadas and the occasional splash of a fish breaking the surface. We set up camp right on the edge of the tree line, facing the lake, cooked some hot dogs, played cards, told the same recycled stories from high school. The whole night had that hazy, golden kind of charm, until it didn't. Around midnight, the bugs started dying down, and a weird stillness settled in. You know that kind of silence that makes your ears feel full? Like there should be sound but isn't? That. I noticed it first but didn't say anything. I figured it was just late and my mind was playing tricks. But then Marco said, "You guys hear that?" And I immediately felt cold. Kyle paused the music, and we just sat there, listening. Nothing. No insects. No breeze. Even the lake had gone perfectly flat, like a sheet of oil. And then off in the woods, behind our tents we heard it. A single deliberate crack, like someone stepping on a thick branch. We froze. Then nothing, for maybe 10 seconds, followed by another crack, a little closer. This time, all three of us heard it. Marcos grabbed the flashlight, but of course it was dying, flickering. I had my phone light, but that wasn't much better. Kyle whispered, "Probably just a raccoon or something," but his voice was tight, panicked. He didn't believe what he was saying. We got up slowly and turned our lights toward the woods. The beam barely penetrated past the first few trees. Nothing moved, no eye shine, no breathing. But then I noticed something that made my stomach flip. There was a shape, just barely visible between the trunks, tall, still, like someone standing there, watching. I whispered, "Do you guys see that?" And both of them nodded, without saying a word. We didn't move. Neither did it. I don't know how long we stood there. Time felt weird, like a balloon about to pop. Then, slowly, the figure shifted. It didn't walk or run. It just glided a few inches to the side, behind another tree, almost like it didn't want to be seen moving. We grabbed our stuff and bolted, left the tents, left the cooler. We didn't even speak, just ran. I nearly twisted my ankle on a root, but I didn't stop. None of us did. When we finally got back to the car, I was shaking so badly I dropped the keys twice trying to unlock it. The whole drive back was dead silent. We didn't even play music. Later that week, we went back during the day to grab what we'd left behind. Everything was still there, untouched, except one thing. The tent I had slept in was zipped up, all the way shut. We never zipped our tents. It was too hot. And inside, in the middle of my sleeping bag, was my phone. Powered off, even though I know I had it in my pocket when we left. None of us ever talked about it again after that. We still don't. But every once in a while, I get this feeling, usually on humid summer nights, like something's just outside the window, watching, waiting. I try to shake it off. I tell myself it was nothing, but I haven't gone camping since. This happened 4 summers ago, when I was 23. At the time, I was working part-time at a local car wash, saving up for college. My friend Ryan had just gotten access to his uncle's lake cabin upstate and convinced 3 of us to spend a weekend there. It was remote-like, the kind of remote where your phone signal dies 5 minutes after you leave the highway. There was me, Ryan, our mutual friend Jace, and a girl named Lacey who I had a bit of a thing for. The cabin wasn't fancy, but it had the essential spower, plumbing, and a massive screened-in porch that overlooked the lake. We planned to drink, grill, maybe fish a little. Typical summer stuff. The first night was honestly perfect. We grilled burgers, had a couple drinks, and stayed up playing cards under the dim yellow porch light. Around midnight, Lacey called it a night and went to the guest room. Ryan and Jace followed not long after. I stayed up a little longer just listening to the night sounds crickets, the occasional owl, and the gentle lap of water against the dock. That's when I noticed something weird. I was sitting on the porch and saw movement near the edge of the wood slough, like someone trying not to be noticed. I froze, thinking maybe it was a deer, but the shape was upright, human. At first, I thought maybe it was one of the guys screwing around, but both of their rooms were silent, lights off. I leaned forward slightly in my chair, trying to get a better look through the screen. The figure stepped behind a tree, still as hell. I waited. A minute passed, then 2. And just when I was starting to convince myself I imagined it, I saw a pale face slowly peek out from behind the tree, just watching me. I stood up immediately, not taking my eyes off it. Whoever it was didn't move, just stayed there, partially hidden, staring through the woods. Something about the posture didn't feel right. It was too still, too deliberate. I backed up into the cabin, locked the porch door behind me, and went straight to Ryan's room to wake him up. He was groggy at first, but followed me back. When I pointed to the tree line, the figure was gone. He laughed it off, said I must have been tired or drunk. I knew what I saw. The next day was normal. Breakfast, swimming, music. I didn't bring it up again. Maybe I had been tired. By the time the sun went down, we were back on the porch. I felt better with everyone around. But around 10 p.m., Lacey said she was going inside early. She wasn't feeling well. The rest of us stayed out for another hour or so, before calling it a night. I was the last one to head in, and that's when I noticed the porch screen was cute at the bottom, near the far corner, a clean slit. I knelt down to inspect it and saw footprints in the dirt outside, leading away toward the woods. I ran inside and locked every door and window I could find. Then I went room to room, checking on everyone. Jace was out cold. Ryan was snoring like a bear. But when I knocked on the guest room door, Lacey didn't answer. I cracked the door open. The bed was empty. That's when I noticed the window was open, curtain flapping slightly in the breeze. I shouted for Ryan and Jace, heart pounding. We all ran outside, flashlights sweeping the trees. We called her name again and again. Nothing. We were just about to head back inside and call the police when we heard a scream, faint, from the woods. We bolted toward the sound, stumbling through brush and branches. Ryan spotted something near the base of a tree, Lacey, huddled on the ground, shaking uncontrollably. Her lip was bleeding, and her clothes were torn. She kept saying the same thing over and over. He was inside. He was inside. Back at the cabin, after the cops arrived, she told them what happened. Said she woke up in the middle of the night to someone breathing heavily next to her bed. At first, she thought it was one of us, but when she opened her eyes, there was a man standing there, barefoot, staring at her. She tried to scream, but he grabbed her. She fought him off just enough to scramble out the window and run. That's when we heard her. The police searched the property and eventually found signs someone had been staying in the old pump shed near the edge of the lake. Dirty clothes, wrappers, and a mattress that looked like it had been dragged from somewhere else. The guy was never caught. That trip changed us. None of us ever went back to that cabin, and Ryan's uncle sold it not long after. As for Lacey, we still talk, sometimes, but I can tell she's never quite been the same. And honestly, neither have I. That summer night haunts me, because I keep thinking, what if I hadn't stayed up that night? What if I'd gone to bed early too? I've always loved summer nights. I think most people do. But for me, it wasn't just about the weather or being off school. It was about the freedom. I used to spend my summers in a small lakeside town where my grandparents lived. Real small. One gas station, one diner, and a lot of empty stretches of road. I was 17 that summer, and I spent most of it with my cousin Mason. We were close, more like brothers than cousins. There's one night I haven't stopped thinking about since it happened. It was mid-July, hanging out by the old dock on the south end of the lake. Not an official spot, but locals knew it. Mason suggested we go for a walk through the woods on the east side of the lake. Trail we knew well. No big deal. We reached this small clearing we called the Moon Pit. Not a real pit, just a dip where the sky opened up. At some point, I got this weird feeling. Came on slow, like noticing a smell you can't place. Then we heard a noise. One sharp crack of a branch. Not loud, but the timing was wrong. Everything fell silent. No wind, no bugs, no movement. Just stillness, and that one sound. We both stood up and decided to head back. After walking a bit, Mason suddenly stopped. "Where's the trail?" It was gone. Just gone. Everything around us looked wrong. Then we heard it whisper. Low, breathy, behind me. Mason heard it too. No one was there. We ran. Hard. Fast. I tripped. Fell. Flashlight flew. When I looked up, Mason was gone. I called out. Spun in circles with my flashlight. Nothing. Silence. I got up and just walked. Not even sure where. Time didn't feel real. Eventually, I saw the lake and ran into the water, just to feel something solid. I turned around expecting forest. What I saw instead, no moon. Stars smeared like the sky had been erased. That's when Mason came out of the woods, soaking wet, eyes wide. First thing he said was, "Where did you go?" We argued over who disappeared. He thought I was lost. I thought he was. Our phones didn't match. Texts sent hours apart. Calls never received. A hiker we asked later said, "There's no clearing out there. No moon pit." We never figured it out. We tried. We really did. We still see each other, but we never bring it up. Every summer, I stare at the sky and wonder what happened to us, and whether it could happen again. Last November, I was alone on night shift at a remote water control station north of town. Just me, a silent building, and the massive steel water tower outside. At 3:12 a.m., every light in the station died. The pumps went silent. The emergency generator didn't kick in. No backup systems. And through the front window, under the moonlight, I saw a man standing by the tower valve wearing white coveralls and a breathing mask, perfectly still, watching. He looked familiar. I checked the generator bay. The diesel line had been cleanly cut. Tools were left behind. Someone knew exactly what to sabotage. Inside, the phones were dead. Radios silent. The chemical control screen had one manual override. Someone was tampering with the chlorine feed. Suddenly, a voice outside said, calm and clear, "You can't stop what's already started." I opened the front door, and standing there was my old supervisor, Darren Leaf. Only Darren died in a car fire 3 months ago, and this wasn't someone who looked like him. It was him. Same burn scar, same eyes. He stepped closer. "You were supposed to approve the final override, but you signed off before it was ready. I made one mistake. I tried to run, but the exit door had been sealed from outside with wire. The air grew thick. A sharp, chemical tang filled the room like over-chlorinated water. Then the alarm screamed. A full system breach. Chlorine levels maxed out. I smashed a window with the fire axe and crawled out, gasping into the night. Inside, the monitors flickered one last image. Darren standing in the pump room, smiling at the camera. Then the screens all went dark. Emergency crews shut down the tower. The override had spiked the chlorine to dangerous levels. But there were no tracks, no broken locks, No digital intrusion, just bolt cutters, a severed fuel line, and the override code still logged under Darren's name. They called it a security failure, human error, but no one explained the footage. And no one believed me when I said the screen flashed one last message before it cut out. 2 winters ago, during a brutal ice storm in downtown Denver, I stayed late at work. The building was nearly empty by the time I left. It was just after 6:30 p.m. when I stepped into the elevator, headed for my car on level P4 of the underground garage. As the doors opened, the entire garage was black. Not dim, not flickering, just gone. No lights, no backup generators, just cold, thick darkness, and a single red exit sign glowing from the far wall. I turned on my phone flashlight and stepped into the silence. My boots echoed louder than they should have on wet concrete. I told myself the storm must have knocked out the grid. I didn't know yet. I wasn't alone. I reached my silver sedan, hit the key fob, no beep. The power was completely dead. I got in manually, locked the doors, and tried the ignition. Nothing. Then, in my rearview mirror, I saw movement. A shape. Not close, not moving, just standing maybe 10 cars back. Too far to see clearly, but close enough to know it hadn't been there before. I turned the flashlight toward the mirror. Nothing. The space was empty. Maybe I imagined it. I turned back. He was right in front of my windshield. Black coat, soaked, hood up, face hidden. One gloved hand at his side, the other holding something long, thin. Not a flashlight, not a tool I recognized. He didn't move. He didn't knock. He just stared, watching. I panicked, climbed over the center console and flung open the passenger door. My boots hit the concrete hard. I ran. I sprinted toward the red exit sign and shoved the stairwell door open. The alarm didn't go off, no power. My breathing echoed through the stairwell as I climbed. Fast, slipping. My flashlight flickered once. Then I heard it. The stairwell door below opened, and someone followed. Not fast, just steady, slow footsteps, one by one. No talking. No calling out, just steps that kept getting closer. I hit the lobby level and shoved the fire door open. This one triggered a faint whine. I ran into the pitch-black lobby, scanning for anyone. Phones? Dead. Security? Gone. Outside, across the street, a police cruiser sat with its lights flashing blue on the icy sidewalk. I ran, waving both arms. An officer brought me into the cruiser, wrapped me in a blanket. I told him everything, man, in the garage. No power, no ignition. Someone chasing me. His partner went to check. Came back 10 minutes later. The garage was empty. My car door was open. My phone was still on the seat. No one else was there, and no footprints but mine. They checked the building's elevator log. My access card had activated P4 at 6:32, but another master keyon assigned to janitorial staff had triggered the level just before me. No janitor had clocked in. No one was supposed to be there. I don't park in underground garages anymore, especially not alone. They say it was just a glitch in the system, but sometimes, on stormy nights, a red trail of wet footprints appears on level P4, leading from a parked car to the stairwell. A year ago, in the middle of a bitter November cold snap in Boise, Idaho, I was house-sitting for my sister while she and her husband vacationed in Maui. Around 8:40 p.m., the power on their entire block went out. No warning. 1 second, everything was humming heater. Lights. Frigid, the next. Silence. The twins, 8-year-old boys, were already asleep upstairs. I lit a few candles, pulled up their baby monitor on my phone, and figured I'd ride it out. That's when I heard it. A low, constant rumble, coming from the woods behind the house. At first, I thought it was a neighbor's generator, but when I looked out the window, every house nearby was dark. No lights, no humming. Still, The sound was steady coming from deep in the trail that cuts through the trees. Then, at 9:11 p.m., someone knocked on the front door. Just once. Sharp. I peeked through the peephole. A man in filthy overalls stood there, holding a toolbox. No badge, no logo, no flashlight. Just standing in the dark like he belonged there. "Evening, ma'am," he said. "Restoring backup power. Mind if I check your exterior breaker?" I told him no. He didn't argue, just nodded and walked calmly around the side of the house. The backyard motion light never came on. At 9:17, the baby monitor crackled. I checked the app. One of the twins' beds was empty. I ran upstairs, shard in my throat, but both boys were safe. Still asleep. Back downstairs, I noticed something else. The generator noise? Louder now. Closer. Then, all the lights flickered back on. But something was off. The microwave blinked. 3:19. The kitchen clock said 12 o'clock, and the back door was locked. But wet footprints giant unistract through the house, leading from the basement door to the hallway, and then disappeared. I called the police. They found a Honda generator running silently behind the trees wired into the house through a cleanly drilled hole under the back deck. Inside the toolbox the man had carried bolt cutters, a scanner tuned to emergency frequencies, and a notepad with 5 addresses. Ours was third. No prints, no face, no trace. But in the kids' room, tucked near the window, they found a single red thread caught in the sill. Neither of the twins owned anything red. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat between their beds with a kitchen knife in my lap and waited for the sun to come up.